RotoGrinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender at Blender HD. You can follow me there on Twitter. And this is the show where we go over, we review yesterday's slate, 6-game slate, see what happened, what went on, look at sharp players' lineups. And then we'll talk a little bit about today's slate, I guess, a little. Bigger slate, 14-game slate, a lot of pitching. And answer your DFS strategy questions. Anything about the tools here at RotoGrinders also. So if you got any questions, you got anything to say, post it in the YouTube chat. I see you guys in there. Doug Montgomery, Suki Singh, Jerome Lewis, Woo, J Train, Jupocalypse, Card Fan, Brandon McNeil, Daniel Hutchins, GR Zeta 12, Josiah Smith. You know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me those thumbs. I'm running out of apple juice, but I still got the Mott's. Still got the Mott's apple juice. Keep it cold. Hit those thumbs ups. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. And Josiah Smith says, looks like you had a good night last night, Blender. Not really. Not really. I made money. This is what happens when the payout structures are ridiculous, right? You constantly just win sets of steak knives. I've been winning a lot of steak knives this MLB season. I could have won a lot of money. Could have. The end brutal at the end with the Reds, right? Jonathan India, just looks at strike three in like the 10th or the 11th. Then he starts on second base the next inning. So it's like, okay, I could get a run scored at least from him. And then Eugenio Suarez gets up with the bases loaded and strikes out. Those are the only two guys that no one had up towards the top, right? That was it. And Cronenworth, that Cronenworth dong was the thing that cost me the most. I would have came in third if it wasn't for that. But yes, you see here, I got 7th place in the Super Knuckleball yesterday with 71,000 entries. Seventh place out of 71,344, and you get 1,750. There you go. Set of steak knives, right? Right. First place 100,000. Second place 25,000. And obviously there was a tie over here. There were ties, so not the same lineup, but just same score. But like that, that's it. But I mean, I ended up 195 to 208. I mean, like Suarez hits a grand slam, I win, right? If he hits a double, if India scores and then I get a double and a 2 RBIs, I win. There's one, right? There's another one, right? So many chances. And Castro strikes out 4 times, right? Because my lineup was this. I had a 5-2-1, Houston, 2 Cincinnati, and 1 Padre, Tatis, with Darvish and Odorizzi. Like that was that lineup up there. JBC had a 4-4 with 4 Padres, 4 Astros. And you can see here in my lineup, I was making my Houston lineups were more based around the bottom of the order because they were chalky. Well, I mean, yesterday we had a weird situation with the game being delayed on how much of the ownership will be dropping from the Astros and the Orioles and Odorizzi, based on that. Based on the radar, most likely they were going to play. If there was no rain whatsoever, I thought the Astros were going to be way too popular. Actually, I was under on the Astros to begin with. I was under on the Reds, but excuse me. But once that rain delay happened, once the delayed start, I crept up my Astros exposure a little bit more. But I was trying to not make chalk lineups. So making lineups with Altuve, Toro, like Altuve and Toro, since filling the infield spots are harder than filling the outfield spots. See, I'm getting the sneezes for finishing for all the steak knives. Getting the sneezes. But since second and third base were harder to fill, Altuve and Toro were going to be much more owned than like guys like Brantley and Alvarez and Gurriel and the bottom of the order. Obviously, Straw was only 5% owned. Castro, 8% owned. They're on the road, so I don't necessarily care. They're not going to project all that badly because they're guaranteed ninth inning at bats. They ended up being up by much that some of the other players didn't get ninth inning at bats. So I was just trying to make more lineups that if I was going to play the Astros and if I'm going to play the Reds, then I'm just going to play them. You try to play them as uniquely as possible, which I think this type of lineup does, right? You're still playing with Chalky Suarez, but you're playing India, who was kind of a little bit overpriced at 5,000 for second base. He most likely Altuve was so chalky in that price range, and then playing like the bottom of the order, and then playing like Odorizzi, who I'm surprised was only 8% owned. I think if it wasn't for the rain, he would have been more like 15% owned. But my top stacks were Houston, San Diego, and Milwaukee. I had a ton of Milwaukee, and they bombed. So it's not like I was playing a ton. This is a lineup that came out in seventh place, but I had tons of lineups that didn't cash. With playing Milwaukee. We hear about Lariotto. Like he was playing a similar Kepler, basically a 5x. Kepler, Machado, Vogt, and then the Houston stack, but not with Straw. But Brantley, Alvarez, Altuve, 13 points at 30% owned. Right, Correa was 25% owned at shortstop. Right, so if you take a look at the chalk Houston combination was something more like having Altuve and Toro, and then two outfielders or something. And then the chalk combination of the Reds were basically Castellanos and Suarez and Stevenson. So look, you could play both teams together and still have enough leverage by just playing it differently. Not playing Castellanos. You still play Suarez, but I mean, I could have played Altuve here and then could have played some other third baseman from some other game. But not playing all those 30% owned guys together. If we take a look at the ownership, like Stevenson was 35%. Castellanos was 32%. Suarez 24. And where's the next red? Aquino was 13. Okay. And then India was 12. Then for the Astros, you have Correa 25. Toro at 24, McCormick at 21, Gurriel at 17, Michael Brantley 16. So look, in my lineup, I had Tatis instead of Correa, so I'm not playing a 25% owned guy. I had Suarez, which is about the same ownership, but instead of Toro. Didn't have McCormick play the other two outfielders, so that's lower. And then played Odorizzi instead of the chalk, Darvish plus like Montes. Darvish Gibson, right? Odorizzi was the second highest scoring pitcher on the slate, but also like really cheap. So 32.65. It's not like I had much of him. I mean, take a look at my pitching ownership. I 10% Odorizzi, right? I'd mostly the chalkier combination, right? Look, mostly Darvish with one of these guys, and I had some J.A. Happ to throw it in because I wasn't playing much Reds. I was playing 150 lineups. Take a look with, where Odorizzi was. I mean, there was a split. I mean, Lariotto played a ton of Odorizzi. JBC played a ton of Odorizzi. But some people just like, whatever. I was surprised Montes was kind of as owned. Because that Darvish-Montes combination kind of led you to very similar constructions. So I still had plenty of it. But I just think there was less lineup diversity playing, two of the highest, most expensive pitchers, say for like Urias. I still played a bunch. But I was trying to fit in like two cheap pitcher or Darvish plus, I didn't mind I thought Savali projected better on the bat than both Montes and Urias. So I was trying to get more Savali. But there's only 6 games on the slate. There's only so much you could do. I pretty much went like very heavily on the Brewers. They were the second highest projected stack at like the 6th or 7th highest ownership. And I didn't find many other spots appealing from a projection or an ownership standpoint. Houston, Cincinnati, okay, from a high probability, but they're also going to be owned. San Diego was like the fourth highest stack, and they were going to be like the fifth most owned or sixth most, something around there. So I'm like, okay, I'll play more of that. I didn't play much Texas. I know Texas did well. Played some. Didn't play much Oakland. I mean, sprinkle in, right? Arizona, Cleveland. I just like anytime I looked at, I was building lineups. I would build, 150 set and just like, what? Why do I have 12% of Dolis Garcia? Like, why is there a point to that? Like, why don't I just continue to make Brewers lineups instead? And just like, okay, it's a 6-game slate. I hope the late hammer with the Brewers goes off, and it did. Of course, it didn't. So that's why I said, did I make a lot of money? No, really, I didn't. I put for the Super Knuckleball, I did 150 max. I put in $750. My total was like $2,000, right? This is 1750, right? So all the rest of my other entries equaled about 250. So how much money? Right? Oh, okay. I made 1250 or something, but it's about 2.5x. I mean, like nothing to write home about. Nothing to beat your chest over. I won some steak knives. There you go. That's what I did. Let's see. Andrew Moss asks, what's the difference in builds between a 14-type game slate versus a 5 or 6-game slate? Probably the amount of correlation that you probably want in your lineups. I mean, it doesn't. 5 or 6-game slate, you could still do it. Like on yesterday's slate, about half of my lineups were 5-man stacks, and half of my lineups were 4-man stacks. I played 5, X, and 4-3-1 on DraftKings, right? Because obviously on a FanDuel, you can't play 5-man stacks. The more teams there are in the slate, the more likely one of 28 teams, is going to put up enough runs to pay off a 5-man stack. 6-game slate, there's only 12 teams. So there's less likelihood because there's less teams. That one team that pays off a 5-man stack. Yeah, Bill Thomas says Odorizzi was projected 30% done, so I faded him. He ended up coming in at 10%. I thought Odorizzi before the rain delay nonsense, the late start, was going to be like about 17%, 17-ish percent owned. I'm not even sure. I didn't necessarily even like him at that ownership. I didn't like him at that ownership. I thought Gibson would be a little bit more. I thought the difference between Gibson and Odorizzi would be closer. Gibson would be 20 and Odorizzi would be 17 or 18 or something. But obviously that moves when, especially when it comes to the rain, you don't want to be stuck there with a 0 pitcher or something, right? Because what I did yesterday in my lineups is that I played Astros and Orioles, but I only played them in stacks. So if you do go through my lineups, you will not see one-offs of any of the Astros. So I didn't have Chas McCormick as a one-off. Like he's either in a 4 or 5-man Astro stack or not in the lineup. To me, that's my way of hedging against a postponement possibility. I still want to play the Astros, but if I play the Astros in 15% of my lineups, 15 to 18% of my lineups, the other 80% or so is, well, I don't know. It's not the Astros. And it turns out the Astros were one of the chalkier teams. So it's like it's not like I wanted to play a ton of them to begin with. It's a much different calculation where you're going to take a shot at a possible postponed team when the team is barely owned. That I almost don't mind. I don't mind having more. And the game gets postponed, and who cares? Because with Houston, I mean, okay, the game doesn't get postponed. You get Houston at slightly lower ownership, and then they still bust, right? And it's still chalky, right? Houston, you didn't lose much. I think ownership went to the Reds. I don't think anything else much changed. I mean, I saw that ownership when that game locked because it was the first game on the slate. Didn't start playing for an hour. And I'm like, okay, I guess not many people got off the Astros. That was my consideration of how is this going to affect ownership? But I knew it was going to affect the Reds. So my first thought is I'm going to be light on the Reds. The second thing is how much ownership is coming off Astros where I should now be playing. Now they're underowned. Even if they're fairly owned, are they underowned? I don't think so. I think they were like efficiently owned. Right? McCormick at 21, Altuve at 30, Correa at 25, Toro at 24. Probably slightly overowned. But these numbers could have easily been, Altuve could have easily been 18%, Toro 16, McCormick 15, Brantley 10, like kind of Alvarez, 8% or something like that. At that point, it'd be like, okay, I'll take the shot. I'll take the shot at possible zeros. But I'm going to take the shot by not having them as one-offs everywhere also. Especially when they project well. Because if I left them all as one-offs, it's possible I could have had like 90% of my lineups having at least one Astro in it. And then, okay, they're calling the game. Oh, well, there goes pretty much all my lineups. I mean, you could do it. I mean, it's how much risk tolerance do you have? Me personally, I set the only in stacks buttons to all the players in the game. Even I played Baltimore, right? Just click that. You click you go here. You click only in stacks and all of these, and for the teams, and you just go, okay, those are the only lines those people are going to be in. If one of these guys hits 3 home runs, and I'm going to need them as a one-off, well, I can't have the nuts I can't have the nuts today. That ain't happening. Let's see. Grimble asks, Yahoo allows 6-man stacks. Is that a thing on Yahoo? Sure, why not? If not, what is the recommending stacking MLB GPP on Yahoo? Whatever lineups you want. There's no recommend. It depends on the lineup. We always get back to that. On DraftKings, can you play 3-3-1-1? Yes, of course you can. You can have great lineups that look like that. You can have great lineups that look 4-1-1-1-1-1. You could do that. You can. Is there on FanDuel? Is there a 4-1-1-1-1 lineup that projects better than a 4-4 lineup and also has lower ownership? Well, then you should be playing that lineup in comparison to that 4-4 lineup. But there may also be 120 other 4-4 lineups that are better than that 4-1-1-1. So you probably should be playing some of those other 4-4 lineups. They're all independent of one another. Now, for the ease of building, a lot of times you favor a construction just so you could build stuff. Like it's like, oh, there are more 4-4 lineups, there are more 4-3-1 lineups. I'm going to build a lot more of those than try to pick and choose. But you can run them. Like for instance, like this, what I'm saying right now is one of the most important concepts in all of DFS. The most important concept. Remember the key to asking questions in DFS. You're asking a stupid question if it can be answered in one of two ways. Okay? I'm trying to teach here. Grimble, I think he's new. If you could answer the question, when you ask a DFS question, if you could be answered with a yes or a no, it is a stupid question. Can it be answered with a yes or a no? Can it be answered with an exact number? If it can be answered with an exact number, it is a stupid question. There's no such things as yeses and nos, and there's no such things as exact numbers in DFS. It all depends on the contest and the lineup, and it all depends on everything. Just like in poker. Do you fold ace queen? Like what kind of answer? What kind of question is that? With no context of anything. Well, someone open shows me 7-3 and shoves all in, and at the end with the 7 high, yeah, I'm going to call with ace queen. Yeah, yeah. So like in and of itself, it means nothing. If we go to FanDuel today, we go to the main slate. It's like, okay, well, what's the recommended stacking for FanDuel? A lot of times I'm building 4-3-1s. That's a very big generality. There are probably tons of lineups that are not 4-3-1s that I'm missing if I just build 4-3-1s. So let's say I'm going to go here. I'm going to put in 3-3. I'm going to put in all of these. Maybe not 3x, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just put in all of these. 20, 20. Let me put unique players at 1. So you can go, oh, what's the recommended stack on Yahoo? What's the record? Like, well, there's no recommending nothing. So I'm putting 20, 20, 20, 20, right? So you get 100. Right? Build rules. Let's put it 100 just to, I guess, to be safe. 33. Let's do 3,300, 33,000. I don't care about running exposures. It doesn't really matter. 1 unique. I guess that's fine. Okay, but we're trying to get different combinations over here. So 4-4, 4-3, 4-2. Maybe don't even use 4x. 4x may still give you some of these other ones. Here's a 3-2. Let's do that. Okay, I'm gonna run 100. You're gonna see that there's gonna be lineups like from this time. It's not gonna be all 4-4s and then 4-3s. Like what is the projection and what is the ownership of these lineups? Maybe there's a 3-2 that is actually a better lineup than a 4-4. A certain 3-2, not 3-2 lineups in general. Just a certain one versus certain 4-4s versus certain 4-3s. That's what I mean by lineups are independent. Should I be stacking 5-man on DraftKings? Like, in general, because people don't stack enough, yeah. If you would, on a 14-game slate, if you would have just built 5-3 lineups, like, you're most likely going to make pretty good lineups. No matter what teams you stack and whatever you do. If you set that as a default, you're probably going to make better lineups on average than trying to make all different types of constructions. Does that mean that there aren't 3-3 lineups on DraftKings that are better than some of your 5-3 lineups? Yeah, of course there are. Do you want to spend the time finding them and then playing them? Maybe you don't. There's thousands upon tens of thousands of lineups that you could play that are perfectly fine. So we take a look here. 1, 2. I mean, what the hell type of lineup is this? Here's the highest projected lineup based on, just stacking something. 140.77 with a 181 ownership as of now. Right? And it's a what? 3 Astros, 2 Cardinals, 2 Seattle, and 1 Yankee. That's not 4-4, right? But it projects 140.77. Okay? We go to the stack summary. The combo. No, we can't click on the combo summary. So here's a 3-hitter stack of Houston, right? This is a 3-hitter stack of Houston. Right? So 140 at 181. We get some of these. So a lot of these are like 160s. These are 149, right? 149, somewhere in this range. 148, right? But this is like nothing. I mean, it's a 3, it's a 3, 3, 2, it's nothing. But still has some correlation in it. And then we go to 4-man stacks. Let's go to the 4-man Cardinal stacks. Here, 139.94. You're giving up barely a point, like less than a point. 3-man, 4-man Cardinals, 2 Astros. Right, let's go down to some of these. Let's see, 173, 169. Yeah, they're about the same range. 162. He's a 162. 150. Yeah, this is a bad lineup, right? 139 at 150. 138. Okay, you're giving him an extra point, but you're getting a little bit less ownership. Here's a 4-3-1. Cardinals, Astros, A's. That's probably better than some of those other 3-2 lineups. So you see here, like the difference isn't like you're just comparing the difference in projection and ownership. Correlation increases your variance. It doesn't necessarily increase your projection from a median standpoint. It increases your chances of hitting a ceiling because they're correlated with one another. But like here, the top lineup out of 100 is 140.77. The lowest lineup of the top 100, 122. Yeah, you probably wouldn't. Well, you could play this because this is now down at 96, right? So you're sacrificing 18, almost 18 points in projection, but you're getting like half the ownership. Is it worth it? I don't know. And this is a 4-4 Astros White Sox lineup. Right, here's a 4-4 Mariners Cardinals lineup. Here's 74. Okay, you're getting even less. Cubs Tigers 4-4. Right, these 4-4s are going to project lower than your 3-2 whatever lineups, but they're also more likely to be less owned in combination. Right, 74, 99, 83. So you're getting the requisite ownership drop. Now, if these lineups were 140 ownership and you're sacrificing 14 points in projection for like 30% in ownership, yeah, they probably wouldn't be worth playing. So here's 142, right? Like right this one. Like in comparison to these other lineups, like why would you be playing a 4-man, a Giolito plus 4 Cardinals and 4 Yankees, a 4-4 card? So it may turn out that 4-4 of 2 other teams may be fine, but these Cardinals Yankees 4-4s are not the Cardinals in and of themselves may project well to some extent, and the Yankees may project well to some extent, but making a 4-4 lineup those two actually is a little too over-owned, a little too high owned for their drop in projection. So you don't play 4-4s? No. Well, maybe you don't play 4-4s with the Cardinals and the Yankees based on this. Right? Doesn't mean you don't play 4-4s. It means, well, maybe not in this. Well, do you not play the 4 of the Cardinals? And well, it depends on the lineup. We saw before that 4-3 whatever lineup with the Cardinals projected really well and actually had a little bit more dip in ownership. So maybe the Cardinals actually make more plus EV lineups with 4X type of combinations, but not with 4-4s. And the Yankees are more, because they're going to be higher owned, are more conducive to 2-man stacks than 4-man stacks. Because there's more lineups that have higher projection and lower ownership that are not stacks of the Yankees, that are only 1s and 2s. But you're doing this based on the total lineup. Lineups, not players. So just running, just literally doing what I do. As long as you trust the numbers, all right? Maybe not at 11:30 in the morning, right? We don't have starting lineups. We don't have nothing. We don't have umpires or whatever else would be in here. The proper ownership, right? Because people start, whatever, the ownership will change. You can just run it. Oh, this is with the plate IQ projections even. I didn't even switch it to the bat. So this is even using the plate IQ projections. If we switch it to the bat, it's going to probably look completely different. But that's it. That's how you look at lineups. I'm not playing players. I'm picking lineups. Well, what do I play in single entry? We'll pick a lineup. What do you start with? I don't start with anything. I look at lineups and I pick one. Let's see. DFS Voodoo says, I was playing DFS all wrong until I listened to the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports. Yeah, feel free. Go to the theoryofdfs.com. Get the 15-hour DFS masterclass. All these concepts are in there. Right? You can apply to any sport. It's one big math problem. GR Straw 12 says, I will admit it, the weather scared me off of Houston. I was fading anyway and didn't have the guts to change my thinking. Well, if you were fading anyway, then what did it matter? If you were going to fade, that doesn't make any sense. I would have preferred there would have been no weather because I would have had less of them. It wouldn't have worked out, but I mean, so that doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, that if it scared you off, that means you were fading them anyway. I have no idea. Let's see. People are talking to themselves in the chat. That's fine. What's going on today's slate? You got a lot of pitching, right? Let's look at FanDuel. Playing FanDuel today. Played DraftKings yesterday. Let's see. We're probably not going to get condensed. The thing I'm thinking about today is that we're not going to get that condensed ownership on starting pitcher, but we may actually get more condensed. Like, people aren't going to attack a lot of these pitchers. I mean, look at the pitchers on the slate that we have. If we sort by fantasy points, just whatever median. Cole, Giolito, Wheeler, Scherzer, Kershaw, Snell. I mean, Alcantara, Morton, Heaney, Snell, Erod, Stroman, Hendricks, Peralta, Greinke, Gallen, I guess maybe even, right? Gallen's decent enough, right? Like, doesn't mean you're gonna play. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna. You may not play Charlie Morton, but maybe you don't play the Mets against him, right? That's why I think some of this offensive ownership is gonna end up being a little bit more condensed. Like, someone's like, then it's like, oh, I'm not gonna play Zach Wheeler at 11-4, but I'm also not gonna play the Nationals, right? So we're gonna get both sides of a game being like way low owned. I mean, that's what I'm expecting. I mean, if we take a look at let's take a look at the stack projections. Got my points. Got the Cubs at number 1 against Eli Morton. Astros, okay, that makes sense. Cardinals against Skubal. The Brewers still project well against Gallen. Don't tell me I'm going to have to do this again. Another Brewers day against Zach Allen. The Mariners are actually up there against Kyle Freeland. The Rockies against Flexen, and then we start getting like in the middle. Who doesn't project well? That would be surprising. Like the Blue Jays against Alcantara. Let's see. Look at the Yankees. They're way down there. Are they going to be owned? And I'm looking at FanDuel, so normally I'd go to the stacks. Do we have the stacks report up? Is that up? Let's see. Let's see if it's up. Let's see if it's up. Just to give the overall, like, no, it's the ownership, like the stacked leverage page or whatever. That's not up yet. You have to go like individual. So ownership wise, so look, we're getting Houston, Yankees. Yeah, no, the Yankees are going to be owned. Torres, Judge, as of now, even Seattle, St. Louis, Yankees, Houston. Right. So based on this, as of right now, I mean, the Yankees come up at like toward the bottom of third. Yeah, they're going to be what, the third most owned? That looks like a fade. That looks like I'll have low amount of them. Seattle at least is up there. The Cardinals are up there. The Astros are up there. The Cubs are number 1. And are they even owned? Is it a win game? What's going on? Maybe that. Well, now their total's coming up to like 5. And this is FanDuel. And look at this ownership. This is probably going to change. Wilson Contreras is 2,500 on FanDuel. He's not going to be 4% owned. No, this ain't happening. I'm telling you, this ain't happening. The Cubs have a 5 implied run total, and Wilson Contreras is 2,500, batting 5th. I can tell you for sure he's not going to be 4% owned. What are they going to do with buy-ins today? Did you see that yesterday? He just forgot to run the bases. Or he ran the bases and forgot that it's a flyout. He got benched in the middle of the game. But yeah, they're a little bit expensive, right? Peterson's up there for FanDuel. Bryant, Baez, Rizzo. More people will play the Astros. But from a raw point perspective, raw point and ceiling perspective, they're number one right now. I don't know. Who knows? Baez is not in the lineup. That's going to drop everything. But that's what I'm looking for. This is what you're looking for. The teams that are higher projected for lower ownership. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing in DFS for any sport. So am I picking players? No, I'm not even picking. I'm not picking teams. Then how do those teams fit together? And then who do I play on those teams? Well, if you build stacks with the Cubs, looking at the point per dollar value, you're going to get more with the Contreras and Rizzo and Peterson than you will with like Chris Bryant. I mean, he'll still be there, right? Filling a third base spot or a shortstop spot for Baez. But you're going to get like, if you were to build 20 Cub stacks, you're probably going to get 20 of 20 with Wilson Contreras when he projects this well for only 2,500. So 20 of 20 is going to end up, unless you tell it otherwise, you get 20 of 20 with Contreras. You're probably going to get like 18 with Rizzo and 18 with Peterson and like probably going to get Happ in 14, as a 4-man. Bryant at 12 and Baez at 12 and Hayward in 8 and Sergio Alcantara in 6, like something like that. Just based on their projection, right? I mean, I could show you that concept, and that's using a tool. Like if you were to just build 4 stacks, for instance. We don't care about the other teams. I just care about the Cubs. Where are the Cubs? There we go. Care about the Cubs? Would have just build 20. Why not? Because it's going to try to make the best 20 that it can. And because it's going to try to jam in as many median fantasy points as possible in making 4-man Cub stacks with some other team. So I'm going to guess we're getting 20 of 20 of Wilson Contreras. Right here, 19. Oh, okay. Ooh. There's one lineup without Contreras. Probably whoever, some catcher from whatever, a first baseman for the other. Right. Well, because he even going to play the utility. So if we take a look at just the Cubs, Contreras in 19, Peterson in 18, Baez in 15, Happ in 12, Rizzo in 9, Alcantara in 3, Bryant in 3, Hayward in 1. Okay. Based on their point per dollar value, that makes, and their positions, that makes sense. Obviously, you get them paired with the Astros, mostly. So you can predict. So when you're building lineups using a tool like this, like Lineup HQ or any other type of optimizer, you can predict what these things are going to look like. And if you look down, you're like, okay, I want to play 20 Cubs 4-mans, but do I want Wilson Contreras in nearly all of them? If the answer is yes, then fine, leave it. Right? But let's say I want more diversity in my Cub stacks. I want more Chris Bryant. Right? You could do that. You could just pump him up. But what you could also do is just cap people. So it's like, yes, I want 20 Cub stacks, but I don't want anyone for more than 70%. Right? So you can put 70 on everyone. But pretty much you're going to put them on the guys that are more likely to be over. You look here, who is over or close to 70? We'll cap them at 70. So now 25% of this ownership, this exposure, 20% of this exposure, 5% of this is now going to start going to these other players because it's going to still try to it wants to make you four Cub stacks. That's what you put in. But now you're going to get Bryant probably in a couple of more lineups instead of Contreras or Peterson or Baez. This is how people go wrong when they want exposure to teams, and then they end up, oh, I played half of my lineups for Blue Jays, and I got 0 Vlad Guerrero. So yeah, because he probably was his lowest point per dollar player, highest raw projection but he was like 4,800, and they just all the other Blue Jays stacks actually had higher medians. So here, so I capped it at 70, right? So now these get stopped at 70. I start getting more Bryant, more Hayward, more Happ, more Rizzo, right? There's a little bit more even. If you wanted it this way. Maybe you don't want any. Maybe you're like, okay, I don't mind 70, but I don't want Sergio Alcantara in more than like 2 lineups. Like you could do that. There's 2 lineups, 10%. What's 10% of 20? 2. I don't want Hayward in more than 2 lineups. I mean, whatever you want to do. Right? So it's like, oh, I don't want Hayward or Alcantara in more than 2 lineups each. Right? So I'm building it again. This will move up. All the lineups that have these guys in, there'll be more Bryant, Happ, Rizzo. We get one more Contreras. It's going to try to fill this up. If you don't want them at all, just X them out. So I don't want to play the bottom 2 hitters or whatever. Okay. But don't just leave it. Just don't leave it to a tool that all it knows is to jam in median fantasy points and think that it has a brain. It doesn't. It doesn't know what it's doing. All it knows is its whole sole goal is to give you as many median fantasy points as possible. And in GPP, like that's not the be all end all. Then you just play your cash lineup and try to beat 70,000 people. That ain't gonna work. Ninja the guard, the god. Scherzer can't be going his normal pitch count, right? I don't know. What does the bat currently have him at? Let's take a look. Let's see. Let's go to the projections. Let's look at the projected pitch counts. Because Cardi has that in the bat. So sort by that. He has, oh no, he has some lower. 91. So right now in the bat projections, Scherzer is being projected for 91 pitches. A max of 116, because obviously it's Max Scherzer. But 91. He has Giolito with 104. Cole and Wheeler with 100. Tyler Anderson with 102. But yeah, you could if you have the bat, and this will change. I mean, depending on stuff, what the umpires are, the catchers, splits. I mean, everything. All the pitching stats, all the hitting stats. But this is where you go, where it's like, oh, what's the pitch count going to be? I mean, this is like a median number, and this is what Cardi's doing that work for you. So I'll let him do it. He knows more than I do. So if he says the median amount of pitches on Blake Snell is 91, I'm like, okay. But that's what's factored into the projections. So a lot of times I will look at a projection of a pitcher and go, wow, that's high, or wow, that's low. And the first thing that I do is I come to the pitch count. Did I miss something, or do I not agree with it? Perfectly fine to not agree with things. You take a look and you go, no, I think Scherzer's going to pitch 102 pitches. Well, then obviously his projection is going to come up. Right? We take a look at FanDuel, for instance. We go to pitcher, not Chicago pitchers, but pitchers. Like Scherzer projects for 37 median. He projects, he doesn't even project that bad, right? Comparison to some other pitchers at 91 pitches. You say that he's going to pitch 102, an extra 11 pitches? I mean, Max Scherzer would probably be the best play on the slate, right? I mean, he would probably add an extra 3 points to his projection, right? Another 9 pitches. Another about another 3 points. So he'd project it like 41-ish for 10-8. So he'd be higher up there. Maybe you think, oh, he's only going to pitch 80 pitches. Well, then obviously you have to bump him down. He's going to be more like a 33, which is not going to be anywhere close, right? So if you think different, feel free to put in a different number. I let Cardi do the work. He's more often going to be right compared to me. Will he be right on certain things? And I'll be right on certain things on certain days? Sure. That's the only time I'll change anything. I remember one slate, like maybe a month ago, he had like Stroman pitching like 108 pitches. Like, and he was projected way too good. It's like, okay, I get it. Stroman can pitch late long, and it's a good matchup. But putting his median at like 108 pitches seems like a little excessive to me. So you know what I did? I bumped his projection down. Because if I didn't, I would have gotten him in like all of my lineups. So I'm like, I just don't. 108 as the median? Yeah, it's possible. Sure, of course. How? It's not 50% likely. Maybe it's 35% likely. Okay, so you bump him down to 98 pitches. You bump him down 3 points, and then you build your lineups. You could do it. You don't have to agree with this. I don't agree with ownership half the time. I change that. Right? If I don't agree with ownership on certain people, I change them. It affects my calculations. I don't just leave them in. If I look at this ownership right now, if this is the way it was at 6:30 at night or whatever, and I go, now Cole's, I'm gonna do something like this. Maybe I think it's this. Maybe like maybe I think Heaney is 3 and Morton ends up getting 10. I mean, I change it. Because I'm going to need to know these sums and the whatever to put everything together on what lineups to play. Right? Oh, they say Scherzer's not going to be in a pitch count. Okay, maybe he's 21 instead. Right? If I don't agree with the ownership. Exactly. From my experience playing. Maybe some of these pitchers, I mean, do I care the difference of 1 or 2? Quarter versus 0.5 now. I don't, at that point, I don't care, right? I look at the hitters, right? I go, is Altuve going to be 26? Is Alvarez going to be 25? Like, that's what matters. Is Gleyber Torres going to be 19, but at the bottom, right? Like the difference between, is Tommy Pham going to be 1 or is he going to be 1.5? I mean, I'm not going to waste my time with that. But if there's a guy that if there's a hitter that's being projected at 3% owned when he's really most probably going to be 12% owned, you better damn right I'm going to be changing that. 3% seems way too low for that. I mean, look at what I said about the Cubs here on FanDuel or the Cubs. Like Wills Contreras ain't going to be 4% owned. I mean, I can tell you that already. Maybe 12, but definitely not 4. He projects as one of the top point per dollar. I mean, I believe on the entire, maybe on the entire slate. Yes, literally on the entire slate on FanDuel. Currently in the bat. All right, Toro 2,100. I mean, if Toro is going to be owned at 12% at third base, probably more than Stacks. There's no way Wilson Contreras is 4% owned. And Dylan Moore is 17% owned. Like, no, that'll be much closer. See, you got to change it. But most likely, Jamino's hamsters, they do the work, they do the late work, and the ownership will come up like Contreras. Okay. Hit the thumbs up on your way out the door, right? Got my apple juice here. I got to probably take some cold medicine. I'm fucking sneezing all over the place. I'm schnotzing. We got Grinders Live coming up later today. And if you go to the place where you get your podcasts, download and subscribe to the Morning Grind. 1,000 episodes. Right? Stevie, Grant, Will, they recorded 1,000th Morning Grind. Congratulations to Stevie. And he was asking on Twitter, Stevie, what's your favorite Morning Grind episode? And there's only one answer to that. We all know, all our old school people, we all know there's one answer to that question. There's one I don't know what number it is. I forgot what date it was. The best episode of the Morning Grind was Drunk Siege. Easily, right? There's no question about it. That is the showcase episode of the Morning Grind. So maybe they'll talk about it. I didn't listen to it yet. I mean, I just woke up half an hour ago, whatever. But I'm assuming they talk about it. I assume that's the classic. That's the classic best episode of the Morning Grind. So subscribe to that on Apple, iTunes, podcasts, wherever you get them. This is also a podcast. You can always subscribe. DFS pregame show, RotoGrinders. Rate and review it if you can. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Subscribe button if you're new here. Notification bell to know when we go live. We got Grinders live later today. Crunch time. I'll be on Crunch time for premium members. I'm filling in for Tuttle. So if you're a premium member, which you could get, click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. And I'll be on Crunch time tonight. I'll be on Morning Grind tomorrow, right? I'm not on the 1,000th. They won't put me on the 1,000th episode. 1,001. I'm good enough for that. Okay, so I'll be on that tomorrow. I got a busy day today. 14 games late. Got soccer at 3 o'clock. That's coming up, right? Got crunch time. I got to make my lineups before crunch time, right? Hopefully we get the is there the Angels on the slate? Oh yeah, okay. So I'm definitely not going to be playing Angel stacks, right? Their lineup's not, man's lineup's not going to be in by then, right? Okay, so I'll see you guys later. Reviewing slates. Going over DFS strategy, as we always do here, Mondays through Fridays, 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.